Okay, and welcome to these insights on how to create a whiteboard video and kind of the best practices in creating a whiteboard video. So it's important to note that when you create a whiteboard video, you really start with the story. You understand the story from beginning to end. And that's made easier by having a blog first to work with. So in this case, we've got several blogs to work with, and we take the content of those blogs and basically storyboard it out. You don't need to go ahead and do the whole blog as a video. Really, it's kind of the highlight, the core, the summary of that blog that gets changed into a video. So you kind of see, this is the very first one here this is for one of the blogs about prescribed medication. And in this particular one, I chose to go ahead with some neutral colors, sort of some branded colors too. So this kind of aquamarine is a color that is used a lot with values-based patient advocates. And so that's the background here. I decided to treat this as a glassboard video, which you can actually change by coming over here and clicking the settings button. When you do that, you can choose which kind of video you want. So glassboard and with a hand. That's how we did that there. So that's a fun, creative way to create a video, and it also looks professional, crisp, and clean. It's not overboard. In this particular scene here, what I did is I ended up, let's go ahead and remove this guy. That guy was thrown in later. So don't need him there. So let's take him out. Yep. Let's take him out. There we go. So in this one, what I did here is I actually threw in a background image. So this image is of a guy looking at a big blank banner. And then what I did in the whiteboard video is I just went ahead and put my contents, my graphics, my text inside the constraints of that banner there. So if you come here to, I think it's under props, you can see right there, it's a blank background billboard. So you can use that image as well for the background on these whiteboard videos, and that's fun. So yeah, anyways, this is just a really crisp, clean story. It's simple, it's to the point. Whenever you're kind of building a story, as you know, it always has climax, right? So this is a good example of a story that was built from beginning to end with climax. It tells the beginning of it, kind of what was going on. It sets the stage. You know, she's had shortness of breath, and then all of a sudden they have to call emergency services, and barely saves her life. But then you're like, why? What was going on? So it was kind of setting the stage, building this momentum, but you still don't have any resolution. And so then you find resolution when it explains why Mrs. Adams had that difficulty. It was because of mixed medications. And so then it's human nature to feel some release, some relief when you find that resolution, understand what was going on, and then it kind of comes down and does the points of application, right? So with every story, you've got the context, you've got the setting, you're setting the stage for the story, you're talking about the protagonist, the antagonist, like what are the key players here, whether that's a person or an idea or a product. That is what the story's about. Now something either happens to that product or that product does something, and then we find that in the climax, and then we find our resolution, and then we find our application. And the application in this case is, you know, make sure you double check. Don't take everything your doctor says as gospel truth. Just double check it. And the best way to double check that perhaps is to call your patient advocate or someone else who's familiar with the medical industry to help save you from making the same bad mistake. Now, if you're selling a product, then your application would be, you can buy this product now for $19.95 for a limited time, right? That would be the application, or the ask, the call to action, and that always comes at the end. Although you can give a mini peek, if you will, to your call to action at the beginning, and many people say that mini call to actions towards the beginning of your video are better, because then the viewer knows kind of what to expect when they get to the end and whether or not it's going to be worth their time to continue to watch your whole video. So this is a really good example of how to storyboard. So let's go ahead and actually hit save, because I did delete that one scene, that one character. So there we go, we saved that. Come back to videos here. Now you'll notice that on these ones, even though you added in the color on these, which I appreciate color, the colors aren't great colors. They're not complementary colors. So no one really uses purple and red except for the British. You see that in the Virgin Atlantic, the Virgin the UK Virgin Airlines. They use the purple and the red, and it kind of clashes, and that's kind of what makes them stand out because they're like, oh, we don't really care, we're British. But it just doesn't look that great to have those kind of colors here. And then the white backgrounds tend to be a little bit more cliche, not as fun to watch. So that's why I try to avoid playing with pure white backgrounds as much as possible. Just add a little bit more elements to the scene. The story here wasn't set up very well either, because Campaign Zero, I mean, that's what you open with, is talking about Campaign Zero is here to help, but then you don't talk about Campaign Zero at all throughout the rest of the entire whiteboard video. So it's like, okay, I don't know who they are, I don't know what they do, I don't know why. And then you kind of jump in here and start with some of these phrases like, as soon as you enter the hospital, you need to start speaking up. And instead of it being ingratiating and appealing to a viewer, it's off-putting because it makes me feel like I'm on the defensive. Like, why do I need to start speaking up right away? What's going on? Are hospitals really that bad? Are they wicked? Are they sinful? They're evil. I need to avoid them. And then like kind of using words like worry and stupid and things like that. It just doesn't really give me good warm fuzzy feelings as the viewer watching the video. And then we kind of do this whole thing about asking and plan and goals. It just feels like you're trying to pack a lot into a video. A video really needs to zoom in on just one small little element, tell that story really well, and that's it. Because all you're really trying to do is build trust, build goodwill, build favor from a viewer, and you got about 8 seconds to do that. That's why the opening's so important, and just how you tell your story is important. So we call that a hook, right? Your opening has that hook. It has that compelling message to get them to keep watching. If they do watch your whole minute video, whatever it is, I think really the target should be a minute or less. As general rule, then you're going to have that goodwill and trust built with them. They're going to want to read the article. They're going to want to go ahead and dive into some of your other content. They're going to want to go ahead and download your graphic, your infographic, or the guide that you keep talking about in your video. But as it is with this video, like honestly, I didn't even watch it to the end. I got to about like the minute mark and I was like, I can't take it anymore, because it didn't really have much rhyme, reason, or purpose to it. I didn't know what the story was about. It seemed like there was a lot of stuff coming at me from different angles, a little bit about Campaign Zero, a little bit about talking up, a little bit about goals, a little bit about being prepared, and I just didn't really know what to do with it. And so and then the using colors just to use colors isn't that great. Like, colors need to help tell that story and have a role to play in that story. So red often conveys feelings of like anxiety, caution, danger. Blue conveys feelings of warmth and trust. Green conveys feelings of peace and even money. Yellow conveys feelings of kind of a little bit of peace, but also some caution in there. So it's a mix between green and red. So yellow's a little bit, it's got that stoplight functionality going on. So hopefully this helps, and you can see how I took some of the elements you were playing with and storyboarded them here on what I changed into a chalkboard video rather than a whiteboard video. And I thought that this turned out well. So take a look at this, because this will help you to see how to storytell starting from concept to finish. Chalkboard videos have a little bit more polish to them. On this one, this scene here, you originally had this along with white text underneath. I decided to break it out because really you just want this to stand out. Is this a far-fetched idea? No, it's not. Well, why is it not? Then the next page says, because 1 in every 3 patients suffer or die from adverse events. And then we pause a little bit more, because how does that pertain to the viewer? Well, then the next slide comes into play. Don't be a statistic. We don't want the viewer to be a statistic. So we're here to help, and we're conveying that, we're communicating that in how we tell this story. So you'll notice how I just kind of slowed way down. I didn't say as much, but I added some more poignant slides into play to help that story unfold, unpack more relevantly to the viewer. And in the end, rather than ending on this kind of slide where you got a man who's kind of, oh, what's going on here? He's not a happy person, right? And it's good. This is a good slide for him not to be a happy person, because these are all the potential dangers of staying at a hospital too long, all right? So we don't want the viewer to come away with the feeling of, I should never, ever, ever, ever go to a hospital. They're horrible. They're like death mobiles or funeral homes. But what we're really trying to tell them is that the hospitals aren't meant to be places to live in, to stay for long, because there's other complications that come with staying at a hospital. And so we want to warn them about this. We're building this goodwill, we're building this trust so that we can warn them, and then in the end leave them with a good feeling, kind of a final exhortation that, hospitals are not meant for extended stays. That's all. Just be mindful of the issues going on, and then go from there, okay? And so then it says, thanks for watching. Visit us at blah, 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 blah. All right? So that's how this gets unpacked, unfolded. You always want to end with your CTA and drawing them back to the original source. Hope you guys find this video helpful. I'm excited to see what you guys create and produce. I believe you can create wonderful, beautiful things, and I hope that this video helps point you in the right direction. Until next time, aim high, aim straight, and always hit your mark.